I spent 20 years of my life studying the richest, most powerful people in America. Andrew Carnegie himself commissioned me to discover their secrets. What I found changed everything I thought I knew about success and wealth. I discovered 13 principles that every single one of them followed, often without even realizing it. Today, I'm going to share these exact principles with you, the same ones that have created more millionaires than any other philosophy in history. My name is Napoleon Hill, and in 1908, I was given an assignment that would consume the next 2 decades of my life. Andrew Carnegie, the wealthiest man in the world, asked me a simple question. Would you be willing to spend 20 years studying successful people to create a philosophy of achievement? I said yes without hesitation, though I had no idea what I was agreeing to. I interviewed over 500 people: Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, John D. Rockefeller, Theodore Roosevelt, Alexander Graham Bell. I didn't just interview them once and leave. I studied them. I observed their habits. I lived alongside them. I dissected how they thought, how they made decisions, how they handled failure. And what I discovered shocked me. Every single one of them, whether they knew it or not, followed the same 13 principles. I put everything I learned into a book called Think and Grow Rich. But I must warn you, this is not a book about wishful thinking or daydreaming about wealth. This is a concrete formula, a blueprint. I've seen it work for countless people since I first published these ideas. So let me walk you through each principle exactly as I discovered them. The first principle I discovered was desire, but not the weak, wishing kind of desire most people carry around. I'm talking about burning, all-consuming obsession. Let me tell you about a young man named Edwin C. Barnes who taught me the true meaning of this principle. Barnes had nothing when he decided he wanted to work with Thomas Edison. No money, no connections, no education to speak of. But he had something far more valuable. He had a definite desire that burned so intensely it consumed his every waking thought. He didn't want to work for Edison. He wanted to work with Edison as his partner. Most people would call that absurd for someone in his position. I call it the beginning of riches. Barnes rode the freight trains to Orange, New Jersey because he couldn't afford a ticket. He showed up at Edison's laboratory looking like what he was, a tramp who'd been riding in boxcars. Edison's assistants wanted to throw him out immediately, but Edison saw something in his eyes. Later, Edison told me he recognized that burning desire. He'd seen it in his own mirror. Edison gave Barnes the lowest job in his organization. Most men would have been discouraged. They would have thought, this isn't what I came for. But Barnes worked that position like he already owned the company. He studied every aspect of Edison's business. He waited for his opportunity with absolute certainty it would come. 5 years later, that opportunity arrived. Edison invented a machine called the Ediphone, and not a single person in his organization believed it would sell, except Barnes. Barnes approached Edison and said, "Give me the chance to sell that machine." Edison saw the same fire he'd seen 5 years earlier and agreed. Barnes became a millionaire selling that one product. That's the power of definite desire backed by definite plans. Not hoping, not wishing, knowing with absolute certainty and acting on that knowledge. The second principle I identified was faith. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about religious faith, though that can certainly be part of it. I'm talking about absolute belief in the attainment of your desire. Faith is the starting point of all accumulation of riches. It's the basis of all miracles and mysteries that cannot be analyzed by science. Here's what I discovered through my research. Faith is a state of mind that you can develop through affirmation and repeated instructions to your subconscious mind. Whatever you repeat to yourself with emotional feeling, your subconscious mind accepts as truth. If you repeat thoughts of poverty and failure, your subconscious will translate those into their physical equivalent. If you repeat thoughts of wealth and success with belief, your subconscious mind will translate those into riches. I developed a formula for building faith. First, you must know exactly what you want. Second, you must determine what you intend to give in return. Third, you must fix a definite date when you intend to possess it. Fourth, you must create a definite plan and begin at once to carry it out. Fifth, you must write all of this down clearly. Sixth, you must read your written statement aloud twice daily, once just before retiring at night and once after arising in the morning. As you read, see yourself already in possession of your desire. Feel it. Believe it. This process plants the seed of your desire in your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind then works continuously through channels you're not even aware of to transform that desire into its physical equivalent. I've seen this work thousands of times. It worked in my own life when I had nothing but a burning desire to succeed in my mission from Andrew Carnegie. The third principle is autosuggestion, which is simply self-suggestion. This is the medium through which you influence your subconscious mind. Every thought, every statement you make to yourself is a form of autosuggestion. The tragedy is that most people use it negatively without realizing it. I learned from my study of successful people that they all practice controlled autosuggestion. They deliberately fed their minds instructions. Here's the method I recommend based on what I observed. Take the written statement of your desire that I mentioned in the faith principle. Read it aloud morning and night with full concentration. As you read it, close your eyes and visualize yourself already in possession of your goal. This may seem foolish at first. Your rational mind will resist, but persist. Your subconscious mind makes no distinction between constructive and destructive thoughts. It works with the material you feed it through your thoughts. Right now, without knowing it, you're using autosuggestion negatively every time you say, "I can't afford that," or "I'll never be successful," or "I'm not smart enough." Your subconscious hears these statements and accepts them as instructions. I watched Henry Ford practice this principle daily. He would spend time alone, visualizing his goals, speaking to himself about what he intended to accomplish. People thought he was eccentric. I knew he was programming his subconscious mind for success. The difference between him and those who failed? He used autosuggestion deliberately and positively. They use it accidentally and negatively. The fourth principle I discovered is that general knowledge, no matter how great in quantity, is of little value in accumulating riches. It's specialized knowledge that counts. I learned this directly from Henry Ford during one of my interviews with him. A lawyer once tried to prove Ford was ignorant by asking him question after question about history, politics, and general facts. Ford listened patiently, then responded with words I'll never forget. He said, "I have a row of electric push buttons on my desk. I can summon to my aid any specialist in any field to help me with any problem. Why should I clutter my mind with general knowledge when I have people around me who can supply me with any specialized knowledge I require?" That statement revolutionized my understanding of education and knowledge. You don't need to know everything. You need to know one thing deeply, or you need to know how to organize specialists who possess the knowledge you need. Andrew Carnegie had very little formal education, yet he accumulated one of the greatest fortunes in history. How? He surrounded himself with specialists in chemistry, steel manufacturing, finance, and marketing. Knowledge is only potential power. It becomes power only when it's organized into definite plans of action and directed toward a definite end. I've met many highly educated people who died poor. I've met many people with limited formal education who became millionaires. The difference? The millionaires acquired specialized knowledge in their chosen field, and they used it. You can acquire specialized knowledge from your own experience, through further education, from research, from studying successful people in your field. But here's the key. You must organize that knowledge and use it toward a definite purpose. Knowledge sitting unused in your head is worthless. The fifth principle is imagination. I found that there are two forms of imagination. First is synthetic imagination, which arranges old concepts, ideas, or plans into new combinations. Second is creative imagination, through which new ideas are revealed. This latter form operates when the conscious mind is working at an extremely high rate, as when it's stimulated by strong desire. Every fortune began in someone's imagination. Every invention, every business, every work of art started as a thought in someone's mind before it became reality. I watched Thomas Edison use his imagination to create invention after invention. He would imagine something that didn't exist, then use his knowledge to make it real. The light bulb, the phonograph, motion pictures, all came from his imagination. But here's what I observed about successful people versus those who failed. Both groups had imagination. Both groups had ideas. The difference was that successful people acted on their imaginations immediately. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They didn't wait until they had all the answers. They created rough prototypes, tested them, failed, adjusted, and tried again. Your imagination is the workshop of your mind where all plans are created. You can transform desire into riches through your imagination. But your imagination, like all your other faculties, must be exercised to remain strong. The more you use it, the more powerful it becomes. I recommend setting aside time each day to exercise your imagination. Think about your goals. Imagine new ways to achieve them. Visualize yourself already successful. This daily practice keeps your imagination sharp and your subconscious mind focused on your definite purpose. The sixth principle is organized planning. Desire is the starting point. Faith gives you confidence. Imagination creates the vision. But organized planning transforms all of these into concrete action. I learned from Andrew Carnegie that every successful person must have a definite practical plan or plans for attaining their desire. Here's the method I developed based on my observations. First, ally yourself with a group of people you need to create and carry out your plans. I call this the mastermind group, which I'll explain more in a moment. Second, determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the riches you seek. Third, meet with your mastermind group at least twice weekly until you've perfected your plan. Fourth, maintain harmony between yourself and every member of your group. Now here's something crucial I discovered. If your first plan fails, replace it with a new plan. If that one fails, replace it with still another. Keep doing this until you find a plan that works. Most people fail because they lack persistence in creating new plans to replace those that fail. The most successful people I studied failed many times before they succeeded. The difference? They didn't give up. They created new plans. I watched Henry Ford fail 5 times before he finally succeeded. Each time he failed, he analyzed what went wrong, created a new plan, and started again. He didn't change his goal. He changed his approach. That's the key to organized planning. Your goal remains fixed. Your plans remain flexible. The seventh principle is decision. I discovered through my research that all successful people have the habit of reaching decisions promptly and changing those decisions slowly, if at all. People who fail reach decisions slowly and change them frequently. Lack of decision is a major cause of failure. Let me share something I learned while researching the signing of the Declaration of Independence. 56 men signed that document knowing they were committing treason against the most powerful nation on earth. They knew if they lost the war, they would hang. Yet every single one of them signed. They made a decision, and they committed to it fully. That decision changed the course of human history. I noticed that successful people have this same quality of decisiveness. They gather the facts they need, they consult with their mastermind group if appropriate, and then they decide. Once they decide, they move forward with certainty. Unsuccessful people procrastinate. They gather endless information but never decide. or they make a decision and then change it at the first sign of difficulty. Your ability to make decisions and stand by them is directly related to your faith in yourself and in your abilities. People who lack confidence cannot make decisions quickly. They fear making mistakes. But here's what I learned. The fear of making a wrong decision causes more failures than actual wrong decisions ever could. Even a wrong decision, made with certainty and acted upon, often leads to valuable lessons that bring you closer to success. The eighth principle is persistence. This is the sustained effort necessary to induce faith. I found that persistence is to one's character what carbon is to steel. It's the essential ingredient that determines success or failure. Weak persistence equals weak results. Strong persistence equals strong results. Let me tell you a story that illustrates this principle perfectly. A man named R.U. Darby went gold mining during the gold rush with his uncle. They struck gold, but then the vein disappeared. They kept digging, found nothing, and finally gave up. They sold their equipment to a junkman for a few $100s and went home. The junkman called in a mining engineer who calculated that the vein would continue just 3 feet from where Darby and his uncle stopped digging. That junkman took out millions of dollars in gold just 3 feet away from where they quit. 3 feet. Darby later told me that this experience taught him the most valuable lesson of his life. He went on to become a successful insurance salesman because he never again quit 3 feet from gold. I've used this story in my work because it perfectly illustrates what I've observed. Most people quit right before they would have succeeded. Persistence is a state of mind that can be cultivated. It comes from having a definite purpose, a burning desire to achieve that purpose, self-reliance, definiteness of plans, accurate knowledge, cooperation with others, willpower, and habit. If you're weak in persistence, the cure lies in building a stronger fire under your desires. If you have a weak desire, you'll have weak persistence. If you have a burning obsession, nothing can stop you. The ninth principle is the mastermind. I define this as coordination of knowledge and effort between 2 or more people who work toward a definite purpose in a spirit of harmony. This principle is absolutely essential to success on a major scale. No one ever accumulates great wealth without the cooperation of others through a mastermind alliance. Andrew Carnegie taught me this principle, and he was the perfect example of it. He surrounded himself with approximately 50 men whose combined knowledge and effort built his steel empire. Carnegie himself knew very little about the technical side of steel manufacturing, but he knew how to organize specialists and inspire them to work together harmoniously. That's the power of the mastermind. I discovered that the mastermind creates 2 distinct advantages. First is economic, where you gain the advantage of other people's knowledge, experience, and effort. Second is psychic, where the alliance of 2 or more minds in a spirit of harmony creates a third invisible force that I can only describe as spiritual. This force can be compared to electrical energy that flows when minds work together in perfect harmony. I recommend you form your own mastermind group immediately. Select people whose education, experience, and influence can help you achieve your purpose. These should be people you can trust completely, people who believe in you and your goals. Meet with them regularly, at least twice a week if possible. Share your plans, listen to their advice, and maintain perfect harmony within the group. The mastermind has been responsible for every great fortune ever accumulated. The 10th principle is sex transmutation, and I must handle this delicate subject carefully. By transmutation, I mean the switching of the mind from thoughts of physical expression to thoughts of some other nature. Sexual energy is the most powerful of human desires. When driven by this desire, people develop imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times. I discovered through my research that the greatest achievers were people with highly developed sexual natures, who learned to transmute this energy into creative effort. I studied the lives of hundreds of successful men and found that their greatest achievements came after they learned this principle of transmutation, usually after the age of 40. Now, I'm not suggesting abstinence or celibacy. I'm explaining that this powerful energy can be redirected into business, creative, or professional pursuits. When you feel that restless, driving energy, you can channel it into your work. You can use it to fuel your imagination, strengthen your willpower, and increase your persistence. This is why so many great artists, inventors, and business leaders produce their best work when driven by this energy. The most successful men I studied invariably had highly developed sexual natures, but they also had the ability to control and direct this energy. They didn't dissipate it. They transmuted it into genius, creative effort, and achievement. This is one of the most powerful principles I discovered, yet it's the least understood and most often misapplied. The 11th principle involves the subconscious mind. I learned that the subconscious mind is the connecting link between the finite mind of man and infinite intelligence. It's the intermediary through which one may draw upon the forces of infinite intelligence at will. I cannot overemphasize the importance of understanding and using this principle. Your subconscious mind works day and night. Through a method I don't fully understand, it draws upon the forces of infinite intelligence for the power to transmute your desires into their physical equivalent. It makes use of every principle I've outlined in this philosophy. You cannot entirely control your subconscious mind, but you can voluntarily hand over to it any plan, desire, or purpose you wish transformed into concrete form. I observed that successful people plant in their subconscious minds the exact image of what they desire. They do this through the principle of autosuggestion. Before sleeping, they review their definite purpose, visualize themselves already in possession of their goal, and feel the emotions associated with that achievement. During sleep, the subconscious mind works on these instructions. Your subconscious mind is more susceptible to influence by thoughts mixed with feeling or emotion than by those originating in cold reason. This is why faith, combined with desire, produces the best results. Your subconscious mind doesn't care whether your thoughts are positive or negative. It works with whatever material you feed it. Feed it thoughts of fear, and it will produce fear. Feed it thoughts of courage and faith, and it will produce these in equal measure. The 12th principle concerns the brain itself. Through my research, I came to understand that the brain is both a broadcasting and a receiving station for thought vibrations. Just as radio broadcasting stations send out vibrations that can be picked up by receiving sets tuned to the proper frequency, so does the human brain broadcast thought vibrations. I discovered that when two or more people coordinate in a spirit of harmony, their brains form what I call a psychic battery. The individual brains, when working together in this state, generate thought vibrations at such a high rate of intensity that the combined energy becomes available to every individual brain in the group. This is another explanation for the power of the mastermind. Every human brain is capable of picking up thought vibrations being released by other brains. This is how ideas sometimes seem to come from nowhere. You're actually tuning into thought vibrations released by others, including those who have passed away but whose thoughts remain in the ether. I learned from great achievers that they often receive their best ideas in sudden flashes of inspiration that seem to come from outside themselves. The practical application of this principle is simple. Surround yourself with people whose thought vibrations are harmonious with your own goals and desires. Their positive thoughts will influence your brain. Avoid people whose thoughts are negative, fearful, or destructive. Their vibrations will likewise influence you, but in a negative direction. This is why environment is so crucial to success. The 13th and final principle is the sixth sense, through which infinite intelligence may communicate voluntarily without any effort or demands by the individual. I call this the receiving set, through which ideas, plans, and thoughts flash into the mind. These flashes are sometimes called hunches or inspirations. I must tell you honestly, I cannot explain this principle fully. I can only tell you what I observed in studying successful people. They all developed through practice and experience a sensitivity to ideas and opportunities that others missed. They learned to trust their intuition, that inner voice that guides them without logical explanation. Through my own experience, I learned to rely on my sixth sense in making decisions. Often, when faced with important choices, I would receive guidance that I couldn't explain rationally, but which proved to be correct. I observed this same phenomenon in every highly successful person I studied. They all spoke of moments when they simply knew something without knowing how they knew it. This principle develops only through meditation and development of the mind from within. It comes as a result of applying the other 12 principles. You cannot force it. You can only prepare yourself to receive it by living in harmony with these principles. When it comes, you will recognize it as something beyond your conscious reasoning, yet more reliable than any logical analysis. I have now shared with you the 13 principles that I discovered through 20 years of research into the lives of the most successful people in America. These aren't theories I created in an ivory tower. These are proven principles I observed in action time and time again. Desire, faith, autosuggestion, specialized knowledge, imagination, organized planning, decision, persistence, the mastermind, sex transmutation, the subconscious mind, the brain, and the sixth sense. Together, these principles form a complete philosophy of achievement. But knowledge without action is useless. I challenge you now to select one of these principles and apply it completely for the next 30 days. Don't try to master all 13 at once. Master one, then move to the next. This is how the greatest fortunes were built. One principle at a time, one day at a time. I dedicated my life to bringing you this philosophy. Now it's your turn to prove its worth through your own achievement. The principles work. I've seen them work thousands of times. The only question remaining is whether you'll use them. The choice, as it always has been, is yours.